Hey guys, Wraith calling. Welcome back for Wraith History Lessons. Today we're going to talk about the Panzer II series light tanks, and specifically in detail, probably more on the Luchs than any of the others, although there are probably a half dozen variants included in the game, so we'll kind of hit on most of those at some point. So how it started out, well, let's see. The Panzer II was developed, it was a little bit larger than the Panzer I, and it was still meant to be a light training tank or reconnaissance tank that could also be used in the policing role. It was kind of also a stopgap vehicle for expanded production between the Panzer IIIs and the Panzer IVs. Although in 1939, it was still comparable to other light tanks. This is the Polish 7TP, the TSOV 226, or French R35, although they were armed with bigger guns. The Panzer Kampfwagen II was just not a very effective combat tank. So take a quick look at the variants as we go along here. All the way through the entry model, and the German, I'm not very good with German, so the abbreviations for some of these were a little awkward for me. So the Panzer Kampfwagen II Offensive A/1, which is kind of like a earlier prototype model or production, all the way through F, were armed with the same 20mm KWK 30 L55 automatic cannon, which was a variant of the 20mm German anti-aircraft gun. However, in May of 1940, protection was increased by adding an additional 20mm of armor to the front, because September 1939, when they invaded Poland, the Polish anti-tank rifles played hell with the light tanks and did a lot of damage against those guys. So the earlier model A, B, and C Panzer IIs weighed just under 9 tons, and had a range of 200 kilometers, and had a top speed of about 40 kilometers an hour, which based on the game was actually pretty good on accurate compared to how the game was. So then they get into the D&E models, which were armored plate was varied from 5mm to 30, so it's a little heavier armored. But a lot of the poor cross-country performance when they started going into France, they pulled these off lines and redid the chassis on these altogether. So in March 1941, you get an improved awesome version C through F. 524 tanks of these variants were produced up to 1942 in December. And the awesome F was the last official version of the Panzer Kampfwagen II series. It had the same armament, but was armed with a better, newer 20mm KWK 38 L55 gun. So from here on out, they kind of take a break from the traditional Panzer II chassis, and now they're kind of more modified chassis altogether. But they're still considered Panzer IIs. So now they get to the G models, and they made 12 G models. Was armed basically with a 20mm heavy machine gun as opposed to a cannon, although there were a few equipped with the 50mm PAK-38. They made one prototype of the H. Believe it or not, the Panzer II-J was an actual tank that was built and used. They built 22, used them on the Eastern Front, and were up armored in the 20, but still only used the same goofy 20mm KWK 38 L55 guns. The Osif M version, they made one. Don't know what happened to the one, they don't make any mention of it. The final version, and the one that matters most to us, is actually the Panzerspahwagen II Osif L Luchs, which is German for Lynx, and was built from September of 1943 to January of 1944. The initial production order was for approximately 800, but only 104 were officially made, although there's a few sources that say actually 133 were made. Weighed 13 tons, had a road range of 290 kilometers. It did have a top speed of 60 kilometers an hour. And was armed with the 20mm KWK 38 L55 cannon, which, while a rapid-firing automatic gun, nowhere did they use the 30mm autocannon variant that we have in all of the tanks. So it's kind of interesting to note that they didn't have that version, which is the version I'm playing here in the game. I'm using the 30mm because why would you not use the 30mm? A few, but not many, were reported to have been made with the 50mm KWK 39 L60 gun, but these were open top vehicles, and they said the high end of these was about 30 or so. were made this way. The Leopard was meant to replace the Luchs, but only very limited production numbers, and it was only armed with mostly the 20mm gun, although a few were armed with the 50mm. Other Panzer II variants did include the Martyr, the Vesp, the Sturmpanzerbison, and a few other reconnaissance command chassis and whatnot. So overall, the Luchs, as it stands, looking at the armor values that I've seen for it, is actually pretty historically accurate to what we have in the game. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the quick little video in the background here. I walked with a little over 1,000 base XP. You don't get a whole lot for playing these Tier 4 games. Just under 2K assisted. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it, and keep your powder dry.